Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of the FAMvestor podcast. My name is Sunny Burns.
And I'm Sunmarie Burns.
And today we have our very first guest on the podcast. So excited. We just got done interviewing him, and it was such a great podcast.
And it's just really great. We touch on all aspects of life, not only his entrepreneurial endeavors and business successes, but also his family life and raising his kids and his relationship with his wife. And it's really a whole person story where we really delve into how he is engineering his lifestyle and his family together and creating the life that they want to live.
And it's such an awesome lifestyle. You know, they took a 6-week trip to Japan with all 4 kids, 6-week trip to Europe recently, and they have more travel adventures that you'll hear about. And just creating this life of freedom, but just really intentionally building it step by step. We talk a lot about real estate investing, how he has 30 units, and just kind of building that portfolio. But also, he only puts an hour of work into it a month, which is insane. And we'll go into those a little bit of those systems there and how he's able to do that. And just raising his 4 kids with intentionality with his wife and just creating the lifestyle of his dreams. So can't wait to dig in with you guys. Let's get to the show.
You're listening to the FAMvestor podcast. If you're looking to raise your family with intention, gain financial independence, and live a life of true freedom, you're in the right place. Join us as we explore together how to create thriving families, because strong families are the cornerstone for a world at peace.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the FAMvestor podcast. We have our guest here today, and he is Dustin Heiner, the founder of MasterPassiveIncome.com. Dustin helps people quit their job by investing in real estate rental properties. He is a husband and father of 4 children that he loves to travel the world with. Welcome, Dustin.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thank you very, very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Hey, Dustin, so excited to have you here. You know, I've been stalking you for a little while. We have a mutual friend, Rocky Lalvani. He has his Richer Soul podcast, and ever since I heard you on his show, I've just been so excited to get a chance to talk to you more, and I just feel like there's so many similarities, and it's almost like I felt like I was listening to my future self when I heard that podcast. You know, some of the similarities I just want to share because they're so amazing. As you know, we're both half Japanese. You have 4 kids. Our plan is to have 4 kids. We're at 2 right now. You're homeschooling them. That's also our plan. You're into buy and hold rentals, frugal. I heard that you cut your kids' own your hair at home. We do the same thing. I believe you even had a government job. Is that correct?
Yeah, I worked for the county government where I used to live in California. I worked for the assessor's office and then for the sheriff's office doing IT work.
Yeah, so that's so amazing. Like, I work for the Department of Defense. So I just felt like there was just so many similarities. When I was listening to that episode, I was just laughing the whole time. I ran home, told somebody, you got to listen to this guy. It's like...
Yeah, he came running home. He's like, you have to listen to this guy. He's just like us. His family is just like us. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have you here as a guest and so excited to dig in deep with you.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your story.
Right. So I guess kind of to start us off, in regards to family, finance, and freedom, and the life you're currently leading, so do you want to give us a quick... Well, okay, so based on that, like, where does your origin story begin? So right now, you know, you're not working a 9 to 5, you're kind of doing your own thing, and, you know, you're almost a stay-at-home family, right, with 4 kids. Do you kind of want to give us a little background and maybe how your lifestyle is now and how that kind of originated?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really started being entrepreneurial back when I was really, really young. So I even had a newspaper route where you ride on a bike and throw newspapers out delivering to people. So I had that. And then my dad was a contractor. He had his own construction business. So I got used to that. That was my stepdad. My biological dad, he had a liquor store that he owned, a convenience store. And so I was all around being entrepreneurial people. And then I got my first job. I worked at Walmart, which was horrible. With working at Walmart, I open up my paycheck and I see, oh my goodness, I work for a union apparently, so they're taking out union dues, and I see all the taxes taken out. I should be making a lot more, but I'm getting a lot of money taken out.
Gotta secure that Walmart job, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. And I knew there was by owning business. So fast forward probably about 10, 15 years, I started realizing that working a job, and I was working for the county government at the time, working a job wasn't the best route to go because I work an hour and then I get paid for that hour. And if I don't work, I don't get paid. So it was just not good. I didn't like that. So in the meantime, I'm creating lots of businesses. I had a graphic and website design company. I even created a skateboard manufacturing company. I had a convenience store, I had a pizzeria. I had lots of businesses trying to work my way out of a job. And then in the meantime, all the while, having a wife and kids, I bought a first rental property. So I was 26 or 27 years old. I bought my first rental property, and then year after year just kept buying another one, just as much as I could, just kept buying more and more properties, saved that money from the first property, all the income, to buy another one, then saved from the two different properties, just kept trying to make that snowball of passive income keep growing and growing. And I realized that the easiest business was my real estate rental property business. It was so easy, and I didn't do any work because I had other people doing the work. And I made so much money. So I quit I sold the businesses. I got rid of all the other businesses, and I solely focused on rental properties. And it took me about 6 years of buying properties as fast as I could before I replaced my income from my job. And then after that, it took me about another 2.5 years to get the, courage to actually quit my job, because leaving that W-2 job, it's really, really hard to do. But when I realized, even though I was making $75,000 a year, working for my job, I was losing money because the value, everything that I bring is so much more than I'm getting paid. So I realized I needed to quit. It was absolutely something I needed to do. So I quit my job, and now everything else life is just fantastic. Not to mention, making more money because I quit my job, but I also am completely financially independent. I get to be with my family all day, every day. It's just, I'm just really, really blessed to have the life that I do have.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And I feel like, so you were 27, you said, when you got into real estate. How old are you now?
I just turned 40 about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
40 years. Okay. But it took you kind of 6 years to kind of make up what you were making W-2 with your real estate investments. And then 2.5 years later to quit. So you quit around like 37, 36?
Yes. I was 37 years old.
37. Awesome. And
Amazing.
So I feel
That's
like
inspiring. Most people don't think of leaving their 9 to 5 until retirement age. So you really
65.
Yeah, that really is the essence of retiring early.
Absolutely. And I thought that I didn't want to work for 40 years for somebody else and then hopefully save up enough money to where I can live off what I've saved up.
Right.
And I realized that passive income is really the only way to go, because you work one time and you get paid over and over and over again. And that's something that as soon as I found out about that, I said, look, get me as much of this as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I guess, a lot of people's dreams, I mean, if their dream isn't like to buy the most expensive car in the world, Ferrari or whatever, usually it is to escape and get some kind of freedom from their 9 to 5 and live out their dream and life purpose in it. It really kind of seems like you're doing that. How would you say kind of your life now is different than the average person?
Well, the average person definitely goes to work. I mean, so there's a couple things that I do as a family or with my family. So we go during the week on anything we want to do. Like let's say, because we buy season passes for snow skiing. And so when it's during season, I don't want to go on the weekends because it's more expensive and there's more people there. And I don't want to go on the holidays because there's way more expensive and way more people there. Well, I bought a season pass where we just go only Monday through Friday. And so we go Monday through Friday or those days. And so I literally don't have to go to a job. So I have any time of the day or any time of the week. So we pick in the middle of the week, because it's like $200 for a season pass as opposed to like $600, $700. So we take our lives and change it. So instead of living for the weekend, we live for the entire week. Like I think on Thursday we're going to go to a place that's called Top Golf, where the kids have a lot of fun. It's like bowling, but golfing. There's like targets you got to hit. And then we're going to go to a swimming park on Friday. And, Saturday and Sunday, we just hang out around the house because there's so many people out. So just in general, I switch everything that I do. So I avoid the crowds. I avoid the high prices because I don't need to. And so basically I wake up in the morning and I go to the gym. I come back, hang out with the family, have breakfast, and I just figure out what I want to do. Right now, it's a lot of helping other people invest in real estate. That's really what I love to do. It's just really fun for me. People ask me, don't you get tired of talking about real estate? And I really don't. And the big reason why is what it affords me to do. How real estate has changed my life to where I literally live like nobody else. I travel the entire world. I mean, you guys travel, and I love doing that as well. Like, I take my wife and our 4 kids everywhere we go. And in fact, I think next month, I think it's in August, we're going to be going to the East Coast, over your neck of the woods over there, Sonny. We're going to go to Florida.
Stop by and visit.
We're have to figure that out, how we can do that. So we're going to go to Florida. We have a conference there. We're going to fly in there, sightsee in Florida, then drive up all the way to Washington, D.C., sightsee all the way up through there, go to Philadelphia, probably go to New York. But we're going to take about a month and do like a whole historical, homeschool family schooling trip. And so it's going to be a lot of fun doing all that.
You should check out Colonial Williamsburg on your way. That's a great little spot to stop at.
Absolutely. My wife has done, and I actually even asked Sonny, he gave me a lot of good things like the FBI building. I didn't know that would be a good one to go to. So we're going to go check that one out. And
awesome.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of like the dream that we have,
Yes.
Sunmi was homeschooled growing up, and she kind of, I was publicly schooled, but, once we got together, she told me about the idea of homeschooling and how much she loved it, and so kind of got me geared towards homeschooling our kids. And what was a huge perk was like the flexibility your family had in taking trips off season, and how much perks that is.
Everything, Dustin, that you've been talking about, the flexibility that you get with a schedule that not the majority of other Americans have to follow, gives you so much freedom in your lifestyle, opportunities that you probably wouldn't have taken before, because now you have all this time.
Absolutely. And with my rental properties, I have enough money to do all that stuff as well. Like in 2018, we flew to Europe and we went through 11 different countries for a 6-week trip. It was super amazing. And my wife and all of our 4 kids, it was hectic, obviously having 4 kids, but they're professional travelers now, it seems like, because the year before that, in 2017, the year after I quit my job, I went to Japan for 6 weeks with my dad and my wife and my 4 kids, and we drove all around the island of Japan, like 1,200 miles, and sight saw everything. It was terrific. So we do so much stuff together, and I have the money, right? Going on these 6-week trips, or like the 4-week trip to the East Coast. Part of my brain, I'm really frugal, so part of my brain is like, always worried about or concerned about the money, how much I'm spending on this and how much am I spending on that. And so the little tip, if you ever get to that point, the little tip, if you're frugal, is just every little expense that you're going to be spending on, just try to save as much money as you can on that one, as opposed to say, the trip's going to cost $25,000 for this entire trip. How am I going to get that to 20? Like, try to just make it as little as you can. Like, you're going to rent another room for like Airbnb. Just try to get a good price there. Just that's the only way that I figured out how to be frugal and spend a lot of money at the same time. Right. Because it's kind of like I got to bite my fist in order to get past that frugalness. But at the same time, I just turn my brain off and say, you know what? It's going to cost what it costs. I'm going to do my best to save money, but I have the money and we have the time. So we're really blessed because of the rental properties.
Fantastic. So I love how, you've been very successful with your entrepreneurial endeavors and your real estate journey, but it is very evident to me that the most important thing in your life right now is your time with your family and the time that you spend with your family. So I'm curious to know how you found that balance between keeping all these entrepreneurial projects going on and working on your real estate business and still making the time for the family. And I understand that you don't have to do the 9 to 5, but I'm sure this kind of industry does require some of your time, or perhaps you've worked systems into place where it does afford you more time. I'm curious to hear how you keep that work and family time balance.
Well, I'm going to say that I have a business that really runs itself, which is fantastic. So I have property managers, I have realtors, I have contractors. I basically have everybody do all the work. Now, before I got to the place where I'm at now, building the business, that took a lot of effort. That was being away from the family a lot. When I had my convenience store, as well as my real estate business, as well as my job and wife and kids, I was working from like 5 a.m. all the way till like 7 p.m., if not 8 p.m., and then doing it every single day. And so I was constantly working. And my wife, she understood the process to get to where we wanted to go, or get to be where we had enough money and had enough time. And so it took a lot of work to get there. She understood it. And so we both said, let's just hunker down and get it done. So for 5 or 6 years or however long it's going to take, let's just get it done as hard as we can. And we're going to sacrifice now to where in the future, we're going to be able to live like we want, and have as unlimited time now. So for right now, what's great is even though in the past I gave up so much of my life in order to get to where I am, it was so worth it because I will literally never have a job again. And my business, the rental property business that I've created and the ones that I show all of my students and how to actually build the business is to build one where you don't have to do any work. We hire people to do all the work. I lived in California when I first started investing. I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona because we wanted to move. I didn't need a job, so we just up and moved in one of my rental properties and moved in and lived there. So starting in California, I bought my first property in 2007 in Ohio. So, thousands of miles away. I had to basically build an entire business running itself, like property managers, contractors, realtors, all that sort of stuff. And in doing that, I figured out that there's actually a process. There's a system that you can put in place in order to build your business. So I invest all over the country, and each spot that I go and invest, I build the business so that it runs itself. And so honestly, right now, I don't do a whole lot for my business. I work maybe an hour a month just getting the statements from all my property managers, lining, okay, this looks good, this looks good. Okay, good. And we're moving on. So it's funny to say that I work at like 30 minutes a month, but that's just really how it works.
That's great.
I mean, that just sounds like an absolute dream. I'm sure all the listeners are hearing your story and just like, that's exactly what I want, and like 1 hour a month for your complete financial independence sounds, like a dream. Can you kind of describe what your investments are? What does it look like? How many states are you in? How many properties? Just so listeners get an idea of what you've built.
Yeah. So I'm currently in 3 different states and I want to say 5 different cities or 6 different cities. I can't remember. So right now I have 30 plus properties. I've recently sold a couple duplexes because prices are pretty high right now, or relatively high, so I was able to sell them. But 30-ish, I kind of lose track. So, it's kind of a good problem. But so I have that many properties. I invest all over the country. So everywhere I go, what I do is, and I'll pause that thought. What's really interesting is out of all the 30 plus properties that I bought, I've only seen one of them before, like physically seen one of them before I actually bought the property. All the other properties I did not even look at. I got pictures. I had other people walk through them and give me ideas of what needs to be fixed up and all that sort of stuff. I invest in Houston, Texas as well. And one of the properties I have there, I had to get a whole new septic system. I had to redo the roof. I had to cut down trees. I had so much to do, but I literally never been to Texas, bought the property, fixed it all up because I relied on other people's information, was on the phone and just had everybody do all the work. And now it's a money-making cash cow. So I'm really, really happy with that property.
That's amazing.
That's how I do it.
You're managing these renovations from remote location as well, which is pretty impressive. That's not an easy thing to do.
Right. That's fascinating. And I was listening to your Master Passive Income podcast, and I was listening to your property management episodes. I think you have 3, and I listened to the first one. It was just fascinating. We self-manage, but I'm thinking in the future, once we want to start traveling and be kind of location independent, we need to start hiring those property management. So I was looking for tips, and you had some awesome tips there, and looking forward to the rest of them. But I mean, I love what you're sharing, but I kind of want to go specifically back a little bit to 2007 when you bought your first property. Can you just share, 30 properties? It sounds like a crazy amount of money. What did that first property cost, and how much did it give you in cash? Just so listeners kind of get an idea of where you started.
Yeah, so I started with, I didn't have any money. I wasn't rich. I didn't have a lot of money. In fact, I would think I was a couple $1,000s in debt. I knew debt was bad, so I wasn't in huge debt. My wife maybe had $5,000 or $10,000. So anyways, when we got married, I realized that I wanted to start investing. And so I did my best to save as much money as I could. And we got from our wedding, we got some presents. And so we saved, I would think we had a total of $15,000 or $16,000 that we had, and we didn't have much outside of that. That was all. We didn't have an emergency fund. We didn't have anything. And so I knew I wanted to get started investing, and I knew California, I couldn't buy a property for that, even just as a down payment. It wouldn't work out. So I started looking all over the country, and I settled in Ohio. And I thought, you know what? for the whole long story of how I got to Ohio and figured out this is the place I want to go. But I found a property in Ohio, flew out there, literally took a red eye, met property managers, slept the night, and met some realtors, met some properties, and then flew back out. So it was really a quick turnaround. I don't do that anymore. Now it's just I look online and I talk to property managers, talk to realtors, and I never fly to a new area that I invest. I just start buying because I have people there that I work with.
But you were working full time at this time, right?
Absolutely. I have full time and not having any money. It's just like, I don't have any money, but right now I'm trying to do whatever I can.
That first deal is the hardest deal to,
right.
You don't know what you're doing yet. It's scary. You're trying to figure it out. And so, yeah, it would make sense you'd want to fly out there and see it. But I totally understand when you get to a point of really having your system down, that wouldn't be necessary anymore.
Yeah,
but it's fascinating
absolutely.
to hear that first story and how you went about it.
Right. Do you want to expand a little more? So you found you went to visit the city, and what happened?
So we flew out to the city, met one property manager. So I did it all wrong, but I'm here now, so I've learned a lot of lessons. Met one property manager. Eventually, I got her. Fast forward, she became my property manager, then started stealing from me, so I had to fire and find somebody else because I didn't know what I was doing. So that's a whole nother lesson to be learned, and not to deviate or make anybody think it's not good to have property managers. You just need to know how to find the right ones. That's something that I can work with you with. But flew out there, met the property manager, looked at a ton of properties, talked to realtors, looked at a lot of properties. One of them I bought. So one of them, out of all the properties I bought that one property. And so I bought it. I took all of our money. And this reason why I saw it, I thought Ohio would be great. It was a really depressed area of Ohio. It's Youngstown is the city. And prices are anywhere from like $30,000 to $40,000, $50,000 for the property. Well, this was the beginning of the crash. And so I bought the property for literally $17,000 in cash.
Wow.
Like all my money, didn't get a loan, didn't get anything that would need, it was just all cash. Bought the property for $17,000.
Wow.
Because I didn't have a mortgage, the cash flow, the property rented, I think, for $525 a month. After management and everything, I think I was pocketing maybe $350, maybe $400 a month from that one property. So my mind was blown. Every month getting a check for like $400 for one property. I thought, man, if I got 10 of these properties, I'd be getting $4,000 a month. Like I got to keep getting more.
Yeah.
And that's what really got me down the road. And so, when I really started ramping up buying more and more properties was when the market really took a dive. And I just kept dumping as much money as I could into those properties. And so now I'm investing in in Texas and Arizona where I'm paying $150,000 for homes and things like that. So it started me where I needed to get to where I am now. And now I have plenty of cash, so I can buy a house for cash, then fix it up, and then get it rented, then refinance it, pull the cash out, and go buy another property. So that's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, that BRRRR or that buy, rehab, rent, and then refinance method is so powerful. So were you actually able to buy every single one of your properties with your own money, or were you working with partners?
Did you finance any of them?
So definitely number one, no partners. I got to the point where I've had many partners in business, and I realized that partners, they can be good, but more often than not, it's not the best relationship. And the reason why is because with a partner, like if you're 50-50, you're going to have 50% of the profits, but you still have 100% of the liability. And that's just not the best way to go. Now, if you need to, absolutely do that. I was blessed to be able to take just what we have, and I worked hard to not need a partner. But or using other people's money, like financing on properties, I did that. I even used a credit card to buy a property. It was a long story, but I used a credit card to buy a property. So I used lots and lots of financing. I used many lenders, many banks, and I've refinanced. I even, with my own home, I pulled out my equity maybe like twice. I took it out 2 times to buy more properties. And each time I bought one property to pay that increase in mortgage, and then I bought maybe 1 or 2 more properties that made me more money.
Wow.
And so I've used financing heavily in my business. Now I'm blessed that I was able to pay off a lot of mortgages, so the majority of my homes I own them free and clear, which is great for the passive income.
Yeah,
right,
fantastic.
Yeah. Our 2 properties, and our prices aren't $17K a house. Our first house was $430,000 for our 4-family, which we live in now. But we put 10% down, $43K. But I guess what I wanted to say was,
we're looking forward to that point when our mortgages are paid down. We see the numbers
that's
more
40K
significantly.
is going straight to principal and interest. So
Right.
that's $40K of cash flow that we'll be receiving once that's paid off.
If you can pay it in cash, a lot more returns to you.
Right. And I'm sure, and I've heard a little bit about you, and you're very frugal, and you were mentioning that. And that kind of helped accelerate, I'm sure, a lot of the savings and growing of the investments and just re-putting all the cash into the system. I don't know if you want to touch on anything about being frugal and how that's kind of helped on the journey.
Absolutely. Being frugal is one of the main reasons why I'm where I am, because it was probably about year 6-ish of my plan to quit my job buying real estate that I took my eye off the ball and I started spending money because I had my job. I had the income from my job. I was making, $75,000 a year. And then I was bringing in $8,000 to $10,000 a month from my rental property. Hey, I got plenty of money. So we took trips to Hawaii. I bought things I didn't really need. I spent a ton of money and put them on credit cards, and I always paid them off every single month. Mm-hmm. And so once the bill came due, I paid it off. But it came to bite me as I was building my business that it was like a 2-month stretch where maybe 3 months. So I bought maybe 2 properties, which it was taking money to rehab and fix it up. And so that would eat out of the passive income. I had maybe 3 evictions. One person stopped paying. So there was a lot of just turmoil in the total amount of money coming in. So instead of getting like $8,000 in 1 month, I remember my check. Like, it's burned in my brain. That's also another big reason why I'm so frugal. It was like $117 was, instead of like $8,000, it was, or $6,000 or $8,000, whatever it was normally, it was $117. Oof. My jaw hit the ground. I was like, how am I going to pay? Like, I spent all this money, went to Hawaii and all that sort of stuff. All these bills are coming due. And so now from there, because it was, fixing up properties, evictions and cleaning up and all that sort of stuff when I bought new properties too. So the second month, it was a little better. It was like $250. So it was, at least I wasn't putting money out of my pocket, but it was really hurting because I had these credit card payments that I had to take care of. And so the third month, I eventually went up to like, $1,500 and eventually went back up. And so I took my eye off the ball, but it set me back, even it was like a couple of months. It set me back like a half a year, if not almost a year in trying to get to where I could quit my job. I could have quit it like at least a half a year early if I didn't take my eye off the ball. Now, the biggest thing about being frugal is that you have more money in your pocket, in your savings account or wherever you keep it, to buy a property. Because when I buy a property, I make so much money every single month that then I can save it to buy another property. It's like a snowball. It just keeps going down the hill. If you roll a snowball down the hill, it grabs more snow and keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that's what rental properties do. Now, being frugal, I have more money in my pocket because less money comes out. So I keep more money. And I realize, I want to make sure that I'm buy the next property. Until the actual goal was to quit my job where I didn't have to work anymore. I just kept sacrificing. And from then on to now, I still have that mentality. Like, it's in my brain. It's who I am. I'm really, really blessed. My wife is much more frugal than I am. She's fantastic. And so we work together to save money to buy more properties because it's so much easier to buy properties with money. I mean, everybody knows that. If you have to use a credit card to get financing for something, it's just another step. If you just have cash, it's like, here you go. And plus, I get discounts when I pay cash. I could then refinance and pull the cash out, which is what I do now. So being frugal, I wholeheartedly believe in frugality. In my opinion, it's really got me to where I am now.
Right. That's so awesome. Yeah. And I feel like people ask us all the time, how did you guys get started in real estate? How did you afford the down payment? And, it was 2.5 years of us living in my parents' house, 9 adults, just 1 bathroom, just sacrificing so we can have that eventual, what our goal was of freedom in the future. And we're not there yet, but we're making great strides there. And one thing that I heard you did that I found so awesome is you're a millionaire right now, Dustin?
Yep.
And you live in, you said 1,400 or 1,250 square foot house?
I sure do. I do. It's what's really funny is how it worked out. So my family lives in Arizona. My wife's family. So my in-laws and my wife's brothers. So I'm from California. She's from Arizona. And so I started buying in Arizona rental properties because we go and visit and all that sort of stuff. And we lived in California. And I realized, my mom and stepdad had passed away. And I realized I want my kids to be closer to her parents for at least a little while. There's 75, 76. And, once you hit 80, you stop moving around very much. So I wanted them to be around them as long as they could. And it turned out one of the properties that I had was becoming vacant. And it was like 2 miles away from her parents' house. Wow. And so the family was moving out. And so I was like, hey, we have this property here. I just quit my job. We don't need to work. Let's just move. And so we up and moved, and now we're living in this 1,200 square foot house, or 1,250. And at the same time, we're saving money so that like every bit of money we get, unless we spend it, which we don't spend a lot because we're living frugally. We're going to buy hopefully about 50 to 100 acres up in Idaho,
Nice.
closer to the mountains, the Grand Tetons and stuff. That's our dream would eventually be living up there. But yes, I still live in a 1,250 square foot house with 4 kids.
Yeah, that is
That's
amazing.
fantastic.
And that's so awesome. We're about like 1,000 square feet here with 2 kids. And we also upstairs, lives Sunri's parents. So that's really awesome to have that family connection, and they help out with the kids. And it's been such a blessing.
It's really enriching. I think a lot of people lose sight of the benefit of multi-generational living, or even just, being close to your parents and family members. It's just such a enriching experience for your children as they grow up to have that relationship.
So I want to dig in a little bit, because you had said your wife is really frugal. How does your wife kind of partake in the business or raising the kids? How much of it is on your shoulders, and what do you share, and how do you strengthen each other?
So my wife is, she's amazing. She's probably better at business than I am. Anytime that she has an idea, we should do that, I think about it, I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. Or just numbers. Like, she's really, really smart. So what it comes down to I'm not that smart, but real estate, you don't have to be smart to do real estate. It's really elementary school math. And I'm literally teaching my kids now how to do this. In fact, my daughter, she just turned 11. She said to me, it was probably about a month or two ago, she said, "Hey, Daddy," she's saving, and we teach her how to save and stuff. She saves half of everything. All of her kids, we get them to save half of everything they make from birthdays and stuff. But she sees her bank account's like $650 now. And she's like, "Hey, Daddy, when I have enough money to buy a car, I don't want to buy a car. I want to buy a rental property that pays for the car." I'm like, "Atta girl, that's exactly what I want. You're chip off the old block." And so my wife, she focuses on the homeschooling, because I have the easy job of making money. She has the hard job of homeschooling the kids, and I give her as much effort or support and anything she needs. Like, "Hey, I need this book, or I need this curriculum, or whatever." I'm like, I'm going to work as hard as I can so you can take care of them. Now, before we had kids, she ran our convenience store business. She ran all the numbers, and when we bought a first property, like, she's heavily into the business when it wasn't time to homeschool. Now it's homeschooling. That's her whole job.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and I feel like it's so key. I see it in our relationship all the time, to be on the same page and working. If you can both be on the same page, working to the same common purpose, you're so powerful. And that's awesome that you guys have that.
So what inspired you to homeschool?
Well, number one, being in California, just seeing how California's laws and everything they're trying to teach in California was like, it's just kind of rough. But then I started, my wife always talked about homeschooling. When we got married, or before we got married, I was always through the public school and or government school, however you want to call it. So she was wanting to do homeschooling, and I was big against it. I was like, you know what? Government school is just fine. Let's just put them in there. It's okay. We had a bunch of arguments. So for about 2 years, we were arguing, and eventually we just stopped because she just kind of gave up. I wouldn't say gave up. She just realized, okay, Dustin's not going to change his opinion yet. I'm going to be praying for him. And so it came time for our oldest to I guess basically figure out which kindergarten to put her in. And so we went to the closest school, started talking to the principal, see what we need to do. And then I started praying and saying, "Hey, God, what should I do? Should I put my kid in homeschooling? My wife really wants to homeschool, or should I put it in government school and let somebody else to take care of the education and knowledge and all that stuff for my kids?" And I really, after praying for about 3 or 4 months, I went from completely against, literally wholeheartedly against homeschooling, to where I started realizing homeschooling is really the only way to go. And now, after we've been doing it, like my daughter, I think she's in 5th grade now, and we have 4 kids, and our youngest, she's 6, so she's either in kindergarten or getting into 1st or something like that. My wife takes care of all that. But we always thought, or I thought, man, we'll just do it for the younger grades, and then when they get to junior high or high school, we could put them in school, and then going to college and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm so far past any schooling. I can teach my kids how to make so much more money than anybody else can in school. And one of the biggest things, and this is what as I was praying to figure out if it's the right thing to actually put them in school or homeschool, I came up with, or I felt God was helping me to realize, hey, boil everything down. Why would you want to put your kids into school, or what's your ultimate goal? Like, the biggest question, what's the ultimate goal that you would want for your kids? You want them to be able to, like the boys, provide for the family, financially, provide for them. Then also number 2, love the Lord or love God. Love the Lord so that they know God and also share it to their kids. So those 2 things are the ultimate things that I wanted for them. Well, number 1, I know that, with the money, I could teach them how to make so much more money than anybody ever could. And number 2, I know that the school would actually push them away from God. Like that's a whole big thing that they're trying to do. Same thing with my daughters. I want my daughters not to necessarily provide like financially, but to be able to manage and take care of the family. And I know my wife would actually do that much better, teaching them that as opposed to the school. And then also to know and love God. That's the whole thing. That's like the school would push them away. We're trying to help them to find God. So all that combined, homeschooling is the best way to go. And so I went from being completely for government school to no elementary school, no junior high, no high school, and obviously being real estate guy. I love real estate. I will never have my kids go to college. If they want to go to college and be a lawyer, a doctor, I'm like, that's good. But if you're going to be like, go to college, get $50,000 and work for Costco, like that's just a waste. Like you want anyway. So I'm big against college. Now college is good for some things, but the way how expensive it is now is just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm talking a lot about everything, but I guess it comes across at I'm definitely love my kids and I want the best for them. And what I think is the best is homeschooling, teaching them how to take care of their families and be able to make money and know and love God.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring. I feel like those are all reasons that homeschooling is definitely a perfect fit, and that's reasons that we've also talked over many times as to why we want to do that with our kids too. Our kids are now, our eldest is 4, so we're just starting out on that journey. But as you said, I really feel like at home, if you're responsible parents, you can really lay the best foundation for your children, and that's really what was originally intended anyway. Yeah,
and all the experiences they must be getting, 6 weeks in Japan, 6 weeks in Europe. What kind of education? Like you're living that education, you're living that lifestyle where you're teaching these values, teaching them the best financial education they can, they're living it. So that's just spectacular.
Was your wife homeschooled? I'm curious, or what set her on that path of being so interested in it?
So her oldest brother was homeschooled for a little bit. She eventually wasn't. Her mom decided to stop. I guess it was a lot of work for her and she didn't want to do it. So she went through government school, but she always knew that she wanted to. I always thought, man, it'd be better with my mom, learning from my mom as opposed to going to school. And so that got that train of thought going. And then she realized as she was getting ready to get married and having kids, it really stuck in her brain that she wants to be there and teach the kids as much as she could as opposed to having somebody else do it. So all that combined, she's always been for homeschooling.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I know for me, I was homeschooled growing up, my K through 12. And for my family, too, they had a similar plan. Let's just do the elementary grades, get through that, and then put them in junior and high school. But it ended up becoming the full educational career until I was college age. And then I went and studied to become a teacher. And I taught in the public school systems, and I wondered how that would sway my opinion of homeschooling. And I came to that realization as well as, there are limitations for sure to public education because it just can't be catered to the individual needs. And also all those precious milestones and moments you're going to miss with your children because they're going to be off somewhere else. Someone else is going to experience them. So if you have that opportunity, it is so enriching.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, my wife, Melissa, went down the same road. She got a degree or what's the thing where you can be able to teach? It's like a piece of paper.
The certification, yeah.
So there you go, certification.
It's all pieces of paper.
Yeah, exactly. So she got that as well as she started teaching. She went through like the job shadow or not job. It's like where you work for another teacher. So she did that, had a horrible experience, and then saw what the teaching is like. And I think she substituted for a while. She never actually got the actual job because she realized she hated teaching, and that I probably more solidified homeschooling.
What is kind of the proudest thing that you've kind of seen in these past 11 years, but something that's like that you're so happy, like the lifestyle you lead and how it's affected your family,
how it's reflected on your children, and you see those life lessons shining through them.
Anything come to mind?
That's a fantastic thought. So I was just thinking it was yesterday that my kids even though there's an 11-year-old, a 9, he's turning 10 soon, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old, even though we have them, they're not too far apart, but they are, they're different ages. They play so well together because they're homeschooled, because we read the Bible together, we do everything together, we travel together. They're friends. Obviously, they get in fights. It's just how everybody, we're human, so that's what's going to happen. And they're siblings, so they get on each other's nerves. But we can do so much together that brings them together as a bond and a family. And so I love seeing them talk together and play together. Just today, they were all playing Legos, literally all 4 of them, the oldest to the youngest, all playing Legos together. And so my wife, there's a quick side note, my wife actually, she's very frugal, and she thought, you know what, let's get chickens and have chickens in our backyard so we can get those eggs. And anyway, long story short, we got chickens, and it's obviously homeschooling. We're teaching them how to raise chickens and stuff like that. But it costs like $750 to buy the coop and all the things. I'm like, that's a lot of money. I could buy a lot of eggs for $750. Anyway, so apparently when they were buying the first chickens, I said, this is your guys. You guys go ahead and take care of it. They went and bought chickens, and one of the chickens, the people at the store said, we're not sure if this is a chicken or a rooster. Like, it's a chicken, obviously, but if it's a female, a hen, or a rooster. And my son, he loves animals. And if it's a choice of having the animal or not, he's like, I gotta have it. Anyway, so it was only actually like $3. So we took it. Turns out it was a rooster. And so this morning at 4:30 in the morning, it's crowing, and it's waking me up. And I know it's waking up my neighbors. And so I feel bad for them. So, and we've been talking about it for a long time, that eventually when he starts crowing, we're going to have to butcher them, and then we're going to have to eat them. So a whole life lesson. So literally this morning, I did that. I hunt, and so I love butchering all the game that I get, so we can eat it. We just love being a family that eats the game that we eat, that we get. And so, anyways, in front of them, did all that, clean it up, and they got to look at the intestines and the heart, and they're like, oh, that's so neat, and stuff. And they're like touching it. So it's like real life lessons, and so just what the real estate and homeschooling affords us to do, teaching our kids, like getting them things that I want them to learn, is such a huge blessing.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. And just also being in tune with your food and where it comes from and how it is processed for you. I feel like a lot of times in the modern day you become very disconnected from that, and also the respect that comes with realizing this is a piece of creation and it's offered its life for us, and just having that respect for the food that's put in front of you so that you eat it, and you care more about what you're putting into your bodies. And you understand it more. That's a valuable life lesson for sure. So
Dustin, I feel like, you live a very contrary life to the average status quo American. You're doing a completely alternate lifestyle. What do you say, like, if you were to, sit on a plane ride next to this 18-year-old kid? I know you're traveling with your family most of the times, but if you're alone and you're sitting next to the 18-year-old kid, what do you do? Like, what do you share?
Oh, wow. So I would probably first start out with just in general. I like talking to people and figuring out more about them. So I don't share a lot about myself. I ask them questions. This is usually what I always do. Ask them questions to know more about them, who they are, what they like, what they don't like, and all that sort of stuff, and what their goals are. And if we start talking more about real estate, because sometimes, or more often than not, people ask me, so what do you do, just out of politeness? And usually I'll talk about real estate. So 2 things I would definitely share. Number 1, how they can know God. That's number 1. I love sharing to other people how they can know who God is, and that God wants them to be saved from going to hell. They can actually go to heaven. So that's one. But the other thing is, also on top of that, is how right now you can actually change your life by investing in real estate. So I share with them my lifestyle and what I do with my life. And that usually sparks so many questions of, well, how do you do that? And, well, how did you get started? And, well, how can I do that? And so that's usually the route that I go. But I try to encourage an 18-year-old. If it was specifically an 18-year-old, I would say, are you going to college? How much money are you going to spend on that college? What are you going to learn? Now, if you're going to say $60,000, $70,000 to become a gym teacher, or, like I said, work at Costco or something like that, it's like you're going to be getting a ton of debt. I can help you get all of that, like not even go to college, not even get any of that debt, and get it to where you don't even have to work a job. Would that be better? And so that's usually the route that I would like to go when I talk to an 18-year-old, because going to college, it's not for everybody. Right. They try to tell you it is for everybody, but the prices are so high. When I went to college, I think it was like $2,000 a year. So $8,000, maybe $10,000 total. You could work and pay it off and not go into debt. Now when it's $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, that's just crazy, ridiculous. And I want to help anybody. And in fact, I just got an email, I think it was like 2 days ago, from somebody asking me, I think he's 18 years old, asking me questions about, his future and trying to give him some pointers. And I point him to a podcast I did that showed him what I would do if I had to start all over again. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I love sharing with younger people how there's another option. You don't have to go to college in order to make money. In fact, you don't have to go to college to get a job. You can just bypass everything and to get to the point where you don't even need a job, just like I do. So that's what I would share.
Awesome. That would be so powerful for a young person to hear. I feel so many people are being straddled with large amounts of debts from college education, and a lot of times they don't even know why they're doing it. They're just doing it because everyone else is doing it, as you said. So that's very powerful.
So one thing that I want to share, because we talk about family and because your podcast is about family and helping the next generation, one thing that I implemented in my family that was fantastic. Well, actually, there's two things. Number one, we read the Bible every single night together. And the kids, when we miss reading the Bible, or we're like, when I'm, okay, go to bed, guys, and we didn't read the Bible, we want to read. And so we all get together and I read the Bible to them. It's a special time as a family. So spending time together every single day doing something like reading the Bible has just been a huge blessing. Wow. Another thing that I would strongly recommend is I was never taught how to save money, how to be responsible with money. And that was the very, very first thing that I did with my kids was teach them how to be responsible with money. And so what we do, everything from if they work, and we don't give them allowance. That's number one. Like there's no such thing as allowance. It's a privilege to be in this family, all the traveling, everything we do. In fact, I think every family, it's a privilege to be in the family, to have a roof over your head. So you just do chores because that's what we do as a family. So if they make money from, doing extra work, they go help out grandma and grandpa, or a birthday present, a Christmas present, or since we homeschool, I'm totally fine with paying my kids. So what they do is they have, like each semester they have 6 different subjects, and they have different big books that they have to go through. When they finish a book, they get $10. So every book they get $10, and I pay them $10. So they see, hey, I can work hard and I could get done faster and I could get that anyways. So from that, the biggest thing that I would strongly recommend is teaching your kids how to manage your finances. And so what we do, every penny that they make, so if they make $10, what we do is number one is 10% off the top goes to charity, or we give it to church, give it to God. So that's ingrained in their head. They know they have to do that. As well, 50% of the total would go into your savings for a future. Like when you're 18 years old and you want to buy a car or buy a rental property, we can go that route. So 50% is saved. Then 20% goes to mommy to pay for our food, our clothing, our electricity, everything that we have, because there's responsibilities that we have to pay. So I want them to understand that we can't just, all the money we get, we can't just spend it right away. We have to be able to be responsible with it. So 20% goes to mommy, and then the rest 20% they could spend however they want. And so I started thinking, well, number one, they're learning responsibility by giving 20% to mommy. They have to keep the lights on and everything and food.
That's great.
Number two, we're tithing to God, or we're giving back, which is such a benefit in general. And 50% savings of the money, even if they get half of that, or even just 10% instead of 50%, that's so much better than not getting any knowledge about how to save. Now, my kids, if they get $10, they know 50% goes, or $5 go into savings, $1 goes to God, 20%, so $2 go to mommy. They have $2 left over. They're looking at, well, I'm going to put another $1 in savings and another $1 to mommy, or another $1 to God, or I might spend $1. But they're learning we have responsibilities in other places to put the money rather than just buying things. So that's a huge thing. It's been a huge blessing for my kids. And my kids are so frugal, they're learning frugality. But so when we go to arcade, they would say, hey, Daddy, can I have some quarters to play the video games? And so at first they were always like, no, because it's just a waste of money. Then they started getting money. And I said, well, bring your money so you can go and play the video games. So we go to a certain store that has like a shooting gallery. It's like, they have the little cans and stuff that knock over. So they say, hey, Daddy, can we go play? I said, yeah, you can use your own money. And they're like, that's expensive. I don't want to spend my money on that. Like, good, you're learning. So teaching our kids is a huge benefit to being a family oriented.
That's amazing. And they're 11, 9, 6, and 4. Is that what you said?
Almost 11, 9, 8, and 6.
8 and 6, and to already have a sense and understanding of the value and worth of money and responsibility for it, and also stewardship and tithing, all that wrapped up together, and all before the age of 12 is amazing. That's powerful.
No, I love that. And I love how you break that out. I feel like that's such a good system that I want to incorporate.
Yeah, we've been trying to talk about how it should be split up, but I like how you've hit all those different categories.
Right. And, we both definitely agree, no allowances. And we're definitely, our son is into lemonade stands. He's 4 years old, but he's been begging us all winter long, we got to do a lemonade stand again. We got to do a lemonade stand again. And, he does, like you kind of says, has already at 4 years old started getting a comprehension of money. He knows at Walmart he can buy his Hot Wheels car for 94 cents, but at CVS it's $1.80. And he knows, the dollar store is so much cheaper. And he just, at 4 years old, he has a grasp of what a dollar actually is.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. And that's something that my kids, right now, they want to do a yard sale for all, garage sale for everything that they just, we don't play with this. Let's just do a garage sale. We can make money.
That's great.
And then we want to do a bake sale at the same time. So we're going to go over to Grandma and Grandpa's house. It's a retirement community, a bunch of people, older people. So I could see them being, oh, look at the little kid, and buying some baked goods off of them. So they're really entrepreneurial. In fact, my oldest, she learned how to crochet. Is it knit or crochet? It's got one of the, anyways, she makes beanies and scarves and stuff. So my wife was teaching her, and she started making things, and she thought, I'm going to go to my friends and just see if they want to buy it. So she walks up with a bag of different things and says, you want to buy it? I think in 4 weeks, she made $60 from selling that stuff. I'm like, what? This is so awesome. You're an entrepreneur. This is fantastic.
That's fantastic.
That is awesome.
Now, how many years have you and your wife been married?
13. So May was 13 years.
Wow, congrats. I know you wrote a book on marriage, and I am almost through it now at this point. I've been reading it, and I was very inspired by the book that you wrote, and how you really hit home on the important points and tying it all back to God and original purpose of marriage, and just how to relate and respect each other as a husband and wife. So I just wanted to bring that up. What inspired you to write that book?
That's So in going to church, when my wife and I got married, we wanted to meet other couples. And so we went to a Sunday school class of other couples, a bunch of other couples meeting together. And after a few years, eventually I started leading it. I was a junior high pastor before we got married. And so I started it. Fast forwarding now, we got married in the class for a couple of years. One of the leaders was moving on, so they asked me to become the leader. So for about 5 or 6 years, I was teaching solely about marriage. And because I realized my number one relationship was with God, but my number two is with my spouse. And it's not my kids. I don't lump my wife and my kids together, because my kids come after my wife. They're last. This is first God, second is my wife, and third is my children. Mm-hmm. And so everything else comes after all them. And so the second most important relationship in my life is my wife. And so we started really just solely focusing on marriage and focusing on how we can make our marriages better. And in all that teaching, I just had so much content. And I already wrote my book, How to Quit Your Job with Rental Properties. And I thought, I have so much content. Let me just go ahead and put it in a book so that if I want to just give it out to anybody, I absolutely can. And so what I did was it took me, a good 6 months of really just painstakingly, it was a passion project just to get everything written out as best I could. And so, that's really where it came out. And I realized that the more I taught about marriage, the more I realized how stupid I was, how I was acting, and how I wasn't doing the right things. And I was able to apply it to my marriage, and my marriage got so much better. And so everything combined, marriage, honestly, I'm really, really blessed. My marriage is fantastic. I don't have to worry about a thing. My wife takes care of me, takes care of everything. But marriage is so great because I put an emphasis on making my marriage great.
Right.
And I think that is so key. To hear your success story, not only in the business realm, but also in the family realm, how you've managed to keep your priorities straight. I feel like a lot of times, when someone becomes financially successful, it is due to them putting undue weight on that as their priority in their life. And then sometimes family lives and family relationships fall by the wayside, and they don't have the happiest, successful, enriching story to share on that front. So that's one thing that I've been really impressed with your family story, is just how you keep this perfect balance, and you tie it all back to God, and you really do keep your priorities where they should be. And that is truly inspiring.
And I think a lot of success, also comes in that core foundation you have with your spouse. At least that's what I see in ourselves, like because we have that strong foundation, we have the freedom to kind of expand and start growing other aspects of our life. And really, but if you don't have that core between us, if we were fighting all the time, there's no way we'd be able to do, half the things we're doing now and have the successes. I don't know how you feel about that, Dustin.
Completely, wholeheartedly agree. My wife and I see eye to eye on just about everything. And the longer we're married, the more closely aligned we get, because as we try to outserve each other, where instead of me trying to serve myself and trying to get her to serve me, and she doing trying to get me to serve her, instead of doing that, where I'm trying to serve her as much as possible and she does the same, trying to serve me as much as possible, we work together. We become a fantastic team. Like putting us together as a team, it's a recipe that what we got. We got a fantastic life, fantastic marriage. Kids are great. At least I think they're great. And so all that combined, we're a great team. And so when we work together, it's so much better.
Right. What would you advise, a young couple just getting married? Like, can you share what is your tip for them?
So a great tip would be, and you gotta have to have a little bit of a train of thought, follow me in this. So number one, you need to learn how you give love, you personally give love to your spouse, and how your spouse receives love back to you, and vice versa. How they give love and how you receive love. If you figure that out, and there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, really, really fantastic book. I would strongly recommend that. I talk a little bit about it in my book. I would really recommend that because it helps you to understand what your spouse, how they receive what you give. So I am the type of person that I love getting acts of service. So when my wife is up busy cooking or, taking care of the kids or going to the store or just running errands or whatever, when she's busy doing things, I feel like $1 million. If she's just sitting on the couch in her pajamas, just watching TV, I feel like, I don't feel love. And so she realized that. Now, flip side for her, she loves quality time where I spend one-on-one time with her and physical touch, like putting my arm around her, holding her hand. And so I realized that's what she needs. And I don't give love that way. It's not easy for me, but I make myself do it. So the tip is when you learn the love languages and what you give and receive and what he or she gives and receives, once you learn that, then here's the tip. Do 3 things every single day, small things that can fulfill that love thing. And so this is what my wife and I do. So my wife knows that acts of service is what I really need. And so she does 3 things. Number 1, she gets dressed in the morning, puts makeup on, even if she's not going anywhere. It's for me because I appreciate that. I love looking at her when she looks her best. Not saying that she doesn't say, well, I don't look my best every time. I'm like, no, you look beautiful every single time. I just like it when you put makeup on. It just makes me feel good. And so I encourage her in that. So that's 1. Number 2, she makes the bed. So she makes the bed every single morning to make it look beautiful. So whenever I walk in there, it's like, oh, it feels great. And then number 3, she cleans the kitchen. For some reason, in me, like maybe it's from growing up, if the kitchen sink is piled with dishes, I am so I just am anxious. I can't rest. If the house is destroyed, but the kitchen sink is cleaned out and the dishes are clean, I'm like, hey, everything's good. So when we first got married, there were so many fights because we didn't know this was the thing. And I would come home and the whole house would look beautiful, but the kitchen sink would look horrible. And I come home from work and I'd say, what'd you do all day? And that was like an explosion. So it wasn't the right thing to say. So those are the 3 things that she does for me every single day. And I feel like $1 million. For her, there's a couple things that I need to do. Number 1, every single time I'm literally near her, if I'm walking past her, I touch her, rub her arm or put my hand on her shoulder, holding her hand. So physical touch, that's one thing that I have to do every single time. Another thing is when, after the day's over, about 5 or 6 o'clock, I take the kids, not really take them somewhere, but I say, hey, all kids, come around me, leave mommy alone, give her a special time where, she's able to unwind. And then when we put the kids to bed, 8:30ish, then it's all about her. I devote all my time to her. That's the quality time that she needs. It could be reading a book next to each other, watching TV or whatever it might be. But those are the 3 things. So that's the huge tip I would give everybody is find 3 things, little things that you can do for each other every single day. and do that so that the other person feels as much love as possible.
Right. And we definitely agree with your tip to read the 5 love languages. I think we read that when we first met in 2010 and we loved it so much that we made a commitment every single year we're going to read this book. And so we've read it 9 times now. But last year we decided to read 5 love languages for children. But yeah, it's been so pivotal and so informative.
Yeah. But I love that. 3 little things every day to express love to your partner in their unique love language. That's great. Great advice. How many tense moments can be diffused by just a little showing of love like that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thinking, what can you do? What can I do for you? That just will diffuse everything.
I love that.
So, we've gone pretty long, and I have so many questions I want to ask you, Dustin. But let's say, what kind of gets you up excited in the morning, and what does your typical day look like? How do you incorporate? What are some of your best habits you incorporate in that day? Can you just share with us real quick what that looks like?
So, a lot of people might say you need to do things like journal or meditate or whatever, but this is what I've found to work for me, because I don't think there's a one thing for everybody. I don't think one thing fits every single person. I think you need to do what's best for you. And this is what works out for me, is every morning I wake up, I love making a cup of coffee. And even though it's not caffeinated, it's decaffeinated. Caffeinated actually really screws with my system for some reason. So it has to be decaffeinated, but I love the whole process and drinking it. I realized it started screwing with me a long time ago, and I had to just keep the process. And I read the Bible every single morning. And then before everybody wakes up, that gets me kind of centered. That gets me just kind of like, okay, now I'm ready to tackle everything. Kids start waking up and, take care of them, making sure they have breakfast and everything. Then I go to the gym. And obviously, some people go to work. I go to the gym. I work out for an hour, 2 hours. I just love getting out. I ride my bike 3 miles to the gym. It just gets me something to do, gets my blood pumping. And then anyways, I get back around 9:30-ish, have breakfast with the family, hang out with them. And then one thing that I really do is, since I don't have a job and I don't need to do a lot of work for my business, real estate, I just help and I coach people, and I really show people how to do the same thing. And that's one thing I really, really love to do, either from creating courses or writing books or literally coach one-on-one with people. That's what I really, really do with my time. But the core thing is what I do in the morning is waking up early, number one. Like when I wake up at like 8 o'clock, which is rare, I feel like the day's half over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh man, I'm kind of out of it. So I wake up really early, probably like around 5 o'clock, 5:30-ish, then get my routine. And as I have my routine, it allows me to then move to the next step. So I'm definitely a routine type person. So it moves me to the next step to where I know I'm getting active and I'm doing the things that need to get done for the day.
Awesome.
Sonny gets up at 5 every day as well. I don't, but he does. And I like my sleep. I don't know. I feel I need my full sleep in order to get through the day with the kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when you have kids, that morning hours, especially me working full time, that's when I can really get my own passion projects and what I'm passionate about done in the morning. So that's what I do.
Well, also, I'm more creative in the morning. So I even do work in the morning, either on my courses or whatever. I'm more creative. And so that's where I also put my time in my brain power to work.
Agreed.
How about your wife? Is she an early morning person or late night?
No. Definitely not. She's absolutely a night person. Like at 9 p.m. when I started I'm literally starting to fall asleep. She's just getting her first win, not even her second one. Like she's just getting started. And so in the morning, she's like, oh, I'm so tired. And she doesn't drink coffee. She doesn't like the taste. And so she doesn't do that. But definitely not a morning person.
Yeah. It's echoing definitely our sentiments here. We don't drink coffee either, but for some reason, as soon as the kids are asleep, she gets like this burst of energy. Kids are asleep, freedom. And I'm just like, exactly. It's 9 p.m. I need to go to sleep.
Exactly. When I was working a job and I couldn't, I love taking naps. Like usually about 1 o'clock, I'll take a nap I just love it. Take maybe a 20-minute nap because I can. But when I had a job, it was even worse. Like I would at 9 o'clock, she's just waking up in general, like 9 p.m. She's just like, oh, I'm awake now because, the kids are in bed. And I'm just like, oh, I just can't. I'm just so done.
So Dustin, what's a resource that you can kind of share, maybe a book, a quote? What's something that kind of really helped you along the way on your journey?
The biggest thing that helped me along my journey was not necessarily a resource. It was more a mindset. and the goal that I had. And if I didn't have the goal in the end, my ultimate goal was in 10 years, I'm going to quit my job. So I was 27 when I first started. And I said, when I'm 10 years, when I'm 37 years old, I'm going to quit no matter what. I'm going to force myself to quit. So I got to do everything I can to get there. And so having that mindset of having that goal and striving for that goal and sacrificing for that goal really got me to where I am right now. Now, there are plenty of books that I know that I read that were really beneficial, really helpful. So definitely reading things that can help you to achieve your goals are great. But it was having that ultimate goal, saying in 10 years, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do everything I can to do it. Everything from starting businesses to investing in real estate. Eventually, I was able to do it because of real estate.
Right. So it kind of seems like you're living your passion, but what would you say is some of your hobbies?
Hobbies, I do like Olympic lifting. It's snatch and clean and jerk. You know, if you see like the Olympics where they lift weights, that's, I really enjoy doing that. I started with CrossFit, then moved into just doing Olympic lifting. I do still do CrossFit a little bit. I love hunting. I love fishing. I basically love being outdoors. I love being outside of the house and doing things outside. And I just love traveling. Like literally, we travel everywhere. And you know, some people buy maybe like a cabin at a certain lake that they love to go to. Well, I'm like, why would I do that when there's so many other places to see? Yeah. And so if I'm going to go to one place, or if I just don't see myself, and my wife's the same way. If we're going to go to the same, like once a year, going to one place, it's just like, man, it's such a waste. There's so many, like not just America, but like the entire world is fantastic. Yeah. Go out and see as much as you can. At least that's our perspective. That's why we travel. So the next big trip outside of the East Coast is we want to go to Italy. Probably the next year. We'll probably go to Italy for maybe 4 weeks and sightsee all around Italy.
Nice.
Wow, that's awesome. And sorry, I want to dig in just for personal reasons, but how does that even look like? You and your wife traveling with 4 kids? Like, is there like 6 suitcases? How are you doing these trips? Like,
how do you stay?
Yeah.
For 4 weeks.
Easily, you have to get a car. If you try to do public transportation, it's great for 1 or 2 people. But when you have 6 people, it's just so much cheaper to rent a car. And you're on your own time. You can go wherever you want. It's so much better. So it's something you have to afford. And so that's something that, because I rental properties, I can afford it. So in traveling, it's really just that. Since they're older, everybody has their own suitcase. It used to be where we would have, like, my wife would have 2 and I would have 2, and I would have the boys, like, they would pack all their stuff in one. My wife would pack everything in one suitcase for the boys, and I carry that one, and she'd do all the girls. Anyways, they're old enough now where they each have their own suitcase. They're responsible. Like, I don't carry my 6-year-olds. Like, she's responsible. You have to take care of that. Now, obviously, we make sure she doesn't lose it, but she has to carry it. She has to pull it. Mm-hmm. So traveling is really, it's like we're all just each individual people managing our own stuff. Obviously, I'm managing everything, but it just looks rather fun when people say, "Oh, you're from America and you got 4 kids here with you," and so it's always a fun conversation to have.
That's awesome.
Great.
What do you hope people kind of get inspired? You know, I'm already inspired, but what do you hope people get inspired when they hear you talking? What action steps do you kind of want them to take or wish that they would take?
So to get somebody inspired, really, I'm not a Lamborghini type person. Like, I'm really frugal. Like, you won't see me, at least I don't think I'll ever take a picture in front of Lamborghini. Hey, look what you can have the same thing. I'm more of like, I want to travel the world. So if you guys want to see what it's like to live a life where you can do whatever you want, go wherever you want, that's the type of inspiration that I like to give. Whenever I saw somebody in a Ferrari or in a huge mansion or something like that, just lots of money, I never could relate to that, but I could always relate to somebody that traveled. And so that's why that's how I have my master passive income is all about traveling and what real estate can afford you to do with your life and what it changes your life to be able to do whatever you want. So that's what I use to inspire people. Now, in the step-by-step process is really a number of things, everything from reducing expenses, increasing your income, buying properties to get passive income, and then doing it all over again. It's really simple, but to actually apply it to your life, it's hard because it takes work. And so it's just 1, 2, 3, cutting your expenses, increasing your income, buying properties, and just keep doing that over and over again.
Well, Dustin, thank you so much. I think, everyone is inspired. They have those action plans, and I definitely recommend everyone check out that Massive Passive Income podcast, your blog, all your resources. How else can people get in touch with you?
that's really the best way. masterpassiveincome.com, and then the Master Passive Income podcast, where you can listen. I talk solely about real estate rental properties. It's all basically just me sharing some great information for everybody. But the easiest way to find me is masterpassiveincome.com.
Dustin, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great having you on the show.
Yeah. God bless.
Thank you very much, you guys. I really appreciate having me.
Thank you. Take care.
Wow, wasn't that such a great episode? I am still just so in awe of Dustin Heiner, everything he's done, all the goals he's accomplished, and the life purpose that he's sticking true to, along with his wife and his family, and just the life they've been able to design. So some action steps, if you like what he said, he told us cutting expenses, creating that passive income for him through rental properties, and then repeating that process until he eventually led to his freedom. He gave himself that 10-year window, but very intentionally took action each and every day. If you want to learn more about cutting expenses, I urge you to go back to episode 4, where we talk about managing your money with mastery. We tell our own story of how we were able to save $75,000 in just 2 years on two $50K salaries between my wife and myself. So definitely check that out. And if you want to hear about how we got started in real estate investing, definitely listen to episode 5, where we talk about how we bought our first 4-family house in the New York City area, and then our 3-family house also in New York City area. So definitely check those out. We're also trying to get that passive income and live a similar lifestyle to Dustin. So that was very inspiring to me. Next, if you're married or in a relationship, I want to remind you, he mentioned those 5 love languages, and we also talk about that in episode 9, where we talk about 3 principles for a thriving marriage. And also, I want to remind you those 3 actions. He takes 3 daily actions. His wife does too, to show love to each other. And I think that's so critical. That's something Sunmarie and I really want to do and incorporate in our lives too. Very great idea. And then lastly, if you have kids, he talked about how his money system, I love that system, 50% goes to savings, 20% goes to the parents for the upkeep of the house and just being able to live there, and then 20% they can spend, and then 10% goes towards a charity, towards tithing. And I think that's such a good system, teaches all this responsibility financially, teaches about everything that you would need, so you don't go into life not knowing how to manage your finances, but you have this system laid out, and if you can survive on 20% of your income, that's awesome, and that will just propel you forward. So I think it's a great system. It's a system that we're going to incorporate in our own family. So I loved how he shared that. And with that, I just wanted to thank you for listening. If you want to find out more about the show, go to famvestor.com/podcast, and definitely share the show. If you found value here, share it with your friends. We're on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Google Play. We're even on YouTube, so you can watch the video of this show. You can see what Dustin looks like. Just hop on youtube.com/famvestor, and you'll see our entire show there for you. And we'll have show notes there for kind of breaking down everything we talked about. So definitely check that out. And if you have a message for us or a question that you want us to air, definitely leave us a voicemail at 862-200-7484. Look forward to hearing from you. Definitely keep tuning in. See you guys next Thursday. Thanks. Bye.